What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the channel. Today we're going to be going over the villainy cards that have been revealed this past week. There are going to be some non-color specific or villainy heroes and specific cards as well. In this, we're going to be going over the leader they revealed last week. We're going to kind of give our thoughts because I kind of talked about this in the last video. If this happened, this would be really strong, and it happened, and it seems really strong. So before we get into that, I want to welcome my guest, Matt. Matt, he's back.
Hey guys.
So yeah, Matt's gonna join me. We're gonna talk about these new cards. As more cards start to come out, the more excited I end up getting for this set. And I knew I was gonna be really excited for this set, but as cards continue to come out, it just gets me more and more excited. But with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the leader of the villainy side they revealed last week. We have Maul. Now, I talked about it in the last video because of tokens. Anything with Overwhelm could potentially have a ton of value in this set. And here comes the leader that gives everything Overwhelm, right? For an action attack with a unit, it gains Overwhelm for this attack. Again, you can go ahead and use your units to swing into something as they gain Overwhelm and deal damage to the base, while also being able to potentially trade with a threat on the other side, or just take out their tokens to stop them getting exploit or coordinate and stuff like that. Maul seems like a really fun, strong leader. When you have 6 resources, you get to activate that epic action, you get to deploy him, and then he's a 6 cost 6/6, which is pretty strong. And he has Overwhelm, which is just strong anyway. And then each other friendly unit gains Overwhelm, which we just talked about. How if you have everything on your side with Overwhelm, as long as Maul's on the field, you're not afraid to trade in with things and get that damage into your opponent's base and still keep up the tempo and the momentum that aggro wants to do, because he's aggression villainy. And for me, I just think this is an extremely strong card. I love the art. It's awesome. He's on Mandalore. He's on the throne, right? It's sick art. It's awesome. But also, the card is just really good. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, my first thought when I saw this is Moff Gideon has been just upgraded and replaced.
He's been
immediately outclassed. Moff Gideon was like, yeah, I'm gonna attack with my units, and if they're low cost, I get extra power. And Maul's just like, I'm going to attack with any unit, and I'm going to hurt you.
Yeah,
there's no downside for me on this.
It's pretty crazy to think, but I'm really excited to try out the deck. Now listen, I am going to be an Obi-Wan main. I'm going to play Obi-Wan a ton in tournaments, so that doesn't mean I'm not going to try out every deck, every leader, and kind of see how each deck does or each leader performs. I do have a feeling that this leader is going to be one of the fan favorites because it is Maul. Everyone loves Maul, and it does seem like it has a ton of potential, especially in this format that wants to go ahead and generate those tokens. And again, tokens are either 1/1s or 2/2s, so that could be a problem when all of your units have Overwhelm and you can swing into those weaker units and still get damage on the base. So
yep,
I'm really excited for it, but you can't have Maul in the Clone Wars without Savage Opress. Here he is coming now. He's a 7 cost 7/7. When played, if you control fewer units, including this one, then your opponent ready this unit. And this is actually pretty cool. 7/7/7. I think it's decent stats, right? It might be a high cost at 7, but when you're playing a villainy deck and you're using exploit and stuff like that, you might have more often than not, especially if you're going up against those heroes and decks that use coordinate, you might more often than not have fewer units than your opponent. And if that's the case, he comes out ready. And if this is ready with Maul, then he's a 7/7 with Overwhelm, and yeah, you're gonna get stabbed, and it's gonna be pretty painful. So
yeah, it's not going to be a good time. It's just the 7, like you're saying, with the tokens being such a big thing in this set, at 2/2 being the beefiest they can be, this guy swings into a clone, kills the clone, creates a better board state for you while also dealing 5 damage Overwhelm to your opponent. Oh, it's going to be painful,
because this could potentially be a finisher. Imagine like Kylo Ren with this deck, right? The thing that makes Kylo Ren suffer is that if you don't win by the turn you have like 5 resources or so, and you have nothing on the board, it becomes a problem. But in a Kylo Ren deck, when you have nothing on the board, then all of a sudden you have 7 resources, bam, this comes out and it's ready, right?
Yeah.
And it could help out that deck as well, right? So
another thing to think about with the tokens themselves is how the token situation is entirely dependent upon who you're playing against. Like if you're playing against a clone set, like it sounds like Maul's deck isn't going to care too much about generating droids, and we've already seen a few cards in the set that are neutral that don't have heroic or villainy, or just pure aspect color or whatever, and they give you the option of clones or droids.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about one of those
Or
in this video. But also, like, not only that though, there are cards that give your opponent's troopers as well, like tokens as well, which you can go ahead and maybe use it to stop this from coming down and killing you. Right?
Yeah.
If you go ahead and play Jesse, which we talked about in the previous video, you can maybe give your opponent more units than you and stop Savage Opress from coming down, dropping the hammer.
It's really funny. I ragged on Jesse upon reveal because I'm like, in what situation do you want to give your opponent board state? And now I see why. Because to prevent this guy from showing up and instantly hitting you for 7.
Jesse's a 3-drop that attacks for 5. I mean, I would never rip on Jesse. I understand he's a 4/4 with raid 1. Like, that's super strong. Yes, you're giving your opponent 2 battle droids, but honestly, I'm doing that all day for Jesse. All right, we're going to go ahead and move forward now. We have the B1 attack platform, right? This is a very interesting card because it's a 3-drop. It's a 5/2. We just talked about Jesse being a 5 attacker. This is a 5 attacker as well. And in Maul, I think it's actually really strong because you could just go ahead and, yes, it's easy to lose, right? Someone can attack into it, but they're more often than not trading into it in the early game for sure. Or you can go ahead and use Darth Maul's ability and have it have overwhelm into an attack as it blows itself up. So kamikaze, sure, but a pretty strong early game thing that makes it so you can pretty much take out whatever you need to that early, you know, and still get damage on the board if you are using Maul. Another unit we're going to go ahead and talk about, we have Kraken here. When played, create 2 battle droid tokens. Pretty good. I do think that this might actually be better than Captain Rex. But also, on attack, give each friendly token unit +1/+1 for the phase. So your tokens, if you are using battle droids, which you most likely are in a deck like this, when you're using Kraken, then they become as strong as clones, 2/2s, which is actually not that bad because of how fast you can generate battle droid tokens, or that you seem to be able to create battle droid tokens. This can get out of hand quickly. This is another card that your opponent kind of has to deal with as soon as possible, because if it does get an attack off and you do have multiple battle droid tokens, it can become a problem really quickly. And I think that this is a really cool card. And yeah, I love Kraken. I think that he's a really cool, I love the tactical battle droids. Like, they're really cool.
Yeah. The 5 cost for a 2/5 is a bit worrisome. It's not the best stat line for that kind of payment. But like you said, we've already seen Rex as a 6 cost 4/4, getting 2 clones. He's getting 2 battle droids, which aren't worth as much as clones. But if he's gonna probably stick on the board a bit longer than Rex. He's a bit beefier, so you'll probably get use out of his on attack effect at least once.
And in a deck like Grievous, if you're not playing against Control, you can go ahead and use Grievous to make something else a Sentinel to keep this on the board a little bit longer. Because it's probably going to go in a droid-centered deck, and I think with Grievous, it's really, really strong. But speaking of droids, let's go ahead and talk about this new base they released. They have the Droid Manufactury, which is pretty sick. When you deploy your leader, create 2 battle droid tokens. Now, yes, you can go ahead and do this on the heroism side as well. But again, if you are using a droid-centered deck, or even just a deck in general, on the villainy side that uses some exploit, that's kind of crazy. So just think about this, right? You're playing Maul. You bring out Maul on this turn with 6. You create 2 battle droid tokens. If your opponent doesn't take out those 2 battle droid tokens, immediately sack them off, and you have Asajj Ventress.
For free!
For free. So it's pretty crazy, and I think that this base is really strong. Now, we saw that the yellow base was 26 HP. This is 24 HP. It's pretty cool. So...
Yeah. No, I don't think that's cool. It hurts me. It hurts me mentally. And like, I understand why it's 24, but at the same time, I'm like, you spent the whole sets 1 and 2 doing 30 and 25, and now in set 3 you're like, have a 26, have a 24. These odd numbers, which just, that makes math weird for me, and I don't like it.
Well, either way, I do think that there's potential to see a Camino clone manufacturing type of base. For blue, it's probably gonna be 24, and then maybe the red aggression base is going to be another 26 base, or they're going to maybe try to count, right? Aggression has 27 HP, blue has 23 HP, who knows? But again, I still think it's a very strong base. You're going to see big momentum swings with either activating Coordinate right when your leader drops, because having this with Ahsoka, you bring her out, Coordinate's right online, even if you have nothing on board, right? So that's pretty cool. You get Coordinate right online if you're going ahead and using a Coordinate unit or a Coordinate leader. The next card I do want to talk about, because we did just talk about the creating battle droid tokens, we're going to go ahead and talk about the manufactured soldiers. You get to, it's a 3, it does cost double green, so you either playing it for 5 or 3, and then you choose one, create 2 clone tokens, or you create 3 battle droid tokens. This, with the ability of that base, you could potentially have a 5 battle droid token swing, which is kind of crazy. And then you can go ahead and use that for exploit, which again, we'll go ahead and hop into another card, the Invasion of Christopsis. It's exploit 4, but on that turn, you're going ahead and you're creating 5 battle droids with those 2 cards. If you choose to go ahead and do that, there are a bunch of other cards that you can go ahead and use to create battle droids. But on that, you have a 5 unit swing, plus a little bit more potentially that you can play with, maybe like a 1 drop for another unit. And then on the next turn, you can go ahead and drop this card, exploit 4, making it a 7 cost, defeating all of your opponent's units by sacrificing all those droid tokens you just used and made. And then all of a sudden, your opponent has no units. You still have your leader on board potentially, and all these other things. It's like, that is the momentum switch flipping exploit base. I feel like this is like a big momentum switch flipping base.
This is definitely the type of thing that you close out your turn with this.
Mm-hmm.
Drop extra soldiers so your opponent doesn't really have any counter play to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last thing you want is to drop this at the beginning of your turn, and then they go like, okay, well, I'm going to spend my turn killing your tokens.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely close out your turn with manufactured soldiers on 5, and or on 6 or whatever with your leader. Like you combine, you just go building up all that stuff. You get the 7, and you just wipe out their board, and there's not much they can do about it, especially if you're kind of keeping them under control in the first place.
We have the Confederate Tri-Fighter. Bases cannot Tri-Fighter, my bad. But either way, bases cannot be healed. It's pretty crazy. Like, even your own, but this is an aggression card, so it probably doesn't care that much about healing. It wants to go fast and murder things. 3 drop 3/3 is pretty average, but still the effect is what you're going to see from this. And it's going to probably be, if not a main board card, very often a sideboard card. Just like Wolf was in set 1, I think this is going to be kind of similar.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's got the same cost and stat line as a Star Viper, which was used a lot in set 1. But this has a nice little ability that's not dependent on initiative. It's just, it's out there. Your opponent has to choose to deal with this now if they're playing a heal-centric deck. All those vigilance controls scenarios become much harder to work around when you're running 3 of these in your main deck and just dropping them every other turn.
On the villainy side, we have the Unnatural Life. Play a unit that was defeated this phase from your discard pile. It costs 2 less. It enters play ready, and at the start of your regroup phase, defeat it. That's pretty sick. I actually really like it. The art on it is also amazing. Spider Maul should have been the leader, but I digress. It's just a really solid card, especially if it is, again, you can go ahead and play a B1 attack platform for 1 off of it, right? So if you have 4 resources, you can maybe swing into a unit if you have Maul and give it Overwhelm. So you still go ahead and do extra damage in the base. If there's nothing on the field at that point, you can go ahead and bring it back and deal 5 damage to your opponent's base. It's a really good combination, especially because it is a cheap, hard-hitting unit.
Yeah, another fun little scenario is you have cards like Ruthless Raider if you want to run like a red-yellow. On your turn, you have Ruthless Raider kill itself by swinging into something. You get the when defeated effect, and then at the end of your turn, you do this to bring it back. It gets the when played effect, and then instantly dies again at the end. You're pulling off a total of, 6 damage on base across that turn, 6 damage in pings, and not to mention you swung into a unit, hopefully took it out through pings and swinging, and then you probably swung onto base when you replayed it for another 4. So it's situations like that, huge swing turn.
The final card, even though I said the last card was the last card we were going to talk about, this is actually going to be the last card because I'm stupid. But we have the Separatist Super Tank, right? It is a 9-drop 8/8 has exploit 3, so you have the potential to go ahead and drop it by 6, and this could be a 3 cost. Jesus Christ, this could be a 3 cost. With how easy it is to make tokens, especially in the early game, if you are using Grievous to give your things Sentinel, if you get the perfect opening hand.
Yeah. So the way I look at it,
Mhm.
you're doing this the turn after you play manufactured soldiers. Like that's another line for you because you make the 3 battle droids and then you drop this for 3.
Yeah,
It's probably not something you're dropping too early because you're not getting that. You're probably not getting that board state that fast.
yeah.
Because you, as we've seen so far, there isn't any like 1 or 2 drops that are like, oh, make a droid. And we know there's that 3 cost that makes a droid when played and when defeated.
Yeah.
So assuming your opponent does nothing to your board, on turn 2 you can have 3 things, but then you can't play this until turn 3 anyway. So like you're this not going to come on the 3 resource turn. Unless
you never
something
know.
Crazy happens.
You never know because you don't know what's going to end up being made. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean,
I'm
assuming they're just going to have like really cheap 1-drops, there's got to be down the line. I mean, who knows? But I feel like actually a 1-drop that creates a token actually is really, really strong and won't actually be being made. It's probably going to be
the only scenario I see this happening is someone you're playing against a very greedy Bosk who plays 2 stolen land speeders.
I mean, yeah, I guess so. But
and you go, okay.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I do think that obviously being able to drop it on turn when you have 4 resources or 5 resources is still really strong. In 8/8 coming out for the potential of even if it's just 3 resources and then still having a couple resources to play with on those turns is pretty strong. A lot of cool things coming out on the villainy side. We're going to be seeing a lot more coming out this week, but I wanted to go ahead and talk about this stuff as soon as possible. We record once a week, but I'm probably gonna have to start recording a little bit more because of how many like reveals are coming out as fast as they are. But with that being said, I want to thank you guys all for tuning in. I want to thank Matt for joining me as well. If you guys are new here, make sure you hit that sub button. Support is always appreciated. We're gonna go over a giveaway that we're gonna be doing. You guys know I do my giveaway at the start of every set. It's gonna be a box, but also I'm gonna be throwing in 2 Game-Genic token packs as well, and a starter deck. So one person is going to get a starter deck and the Game-Genic tokens, and then the second person is going to go ahead and get a box of Twilight of the Republic and the Game-Genic tokens. So get excited for that. I'm going to go ahead and show that off as things start to come in. But again, thank you so much for showing your support, and I'll see you guys next time.